Greetings from Church of the Good Shepherd as we approach this Memorial Day weekend. I'm going to share a little bit about the history of Memorial Day here in a moment, but first make sure that you check out the midweek message for upcoming dates and events. From the council meeting coming up to in-person church services, which start June 13th at 10:30, to events like the Women's Retreat, June 26th from 10 to 1, where we'll take recycled materials and turn them into cards for use by the care team. So make sure you check out those announcements in the midweek message. There is a lot happening here at Church of the Good Shepherd. And now a brief word about Memorial Day. I love this story and I wanted to share it with you. During the Civil War in the United States, casualties would eventually number up to 600,000. And during that time, women would regularly go to decorate the graves of fallen soldiers with fresh flowers in the spring. Of course, during the war, some soldiers traveled to distant parts of the country, and they lost their lives far from home. Mothers who had lost their children and were unable to visit their final resting places began leaving flowers on the graves of enemy soldiers, in addition to decorating the graves of soldiers who had fought on their side. They did this out of love, and the hope that maybe there was a mother on the other side of the country decorating their own child's grave. The tradition emerged organically in the North and the South. Whatever side they chose to fight for, they all recognized that their common bond as human beings was greater than the enmity between them. In May of 1868, the tradition was officially established as Decoration Day and placed on May 30th because it was believed that flowers would be in bloom then all over the country. The first observance was held that year at Arlington National Cemetery, and members of the armed forces placed flowers on Union and Confederate graves, reciting prayers and singing hymns. Then after World War I, it was expanded to honor those who have died in all American wars, and in 1967, legislation was passed to rename it Memorial Day. In 1971, it was declared a national holiday by an act of Congress. So this Memorial Day, as we remember those we love who have died in war, my invitation to us is to also remember this holiday's roots. Mothers honoring the sacred lives, not only of their children, but their enemies' children. And may we remember that our whole nation was in mourning at one time, not only for our fallen soldiers, but for our nation, which was divided against itself. Remembering this holiday's roots in the Civil War seems important at a time when our country is both divided and in mourning again. We're mourning the lives of our children and parents and siblings who have fallen in battles overseas, as well as the lives of loved ones who have died to a new enemy, COVID-19. Many of us are also mourning American lives lost to violence here at home at the hands of one another, and at the hands of authorities who were sworn to protect us. What might reconciliation and healing look like for us in this time? I'm not sure, but I do know that it's important to honor the lives of people who died on our behalf and people who died fighting for what they believed in. People whose deaths remind us of what's really important. So I'll give the final word to an editorial from 1875 in the New York Tribune. This editorial is on the meaning of Decoration Day, now Memorial Day, and the significance of placing flags and flowers on the graves of our fallen soldiers. The editorial board writes, "We may as well frankly admit that to our descendants, the sole and apparent cause for pride in that crisis of our national life was the stern bravery of the men who fought its battles, and the set purpose with which, for an idea of right, they carried the war to its end. This purpose, too, deserves more honor because of the unwillingness with which every man felt to resort to arms. There was, in the opening of the war at North and South, a universal mortal shrinking from the sight of a brother's blood, to which no record of the Battle of Bull Run has done justice. It was no light or mercenary motive that made the American a fratricide, We believe that in the future time, the fullest justice will be done to this motive. Those who come after us may differ as to the causes of the war or the character of the politicians whom it brought to the surface. But they will have only one judgment of the men who, in Carolina or New York, gave up self-interest, business, family, home, and went upon the battlefield to offer all that was left of them, life itself, for a cause which seemed to them true and noble. May we bear with a little noise and turmoil for the present about the resting places of our dead, if it will help us to bequeath this one heroic memory to the future, our only proof to our children that the dollar has not been almighty in our age. Must we fear to be silent these graves and the roses which we lay upon them? Amen.